All right, we're back with our second episode of today on the Ball Streets podcast, and we got a really, really cool guest here, Blaise Alexander. Dylan, you're neck of the woods, man. I'm gonna let you kick it off again. Introduce this man.
Yeah, so my dad's in the automotive industry as well. He initially started working for Blaise, so it's gonna be fun to hear his story, hear his background. I know it's an interesting story for sure. But yeah, we're just very thankful for your time and
Sure.
doing this for us today.
I will say that Dylan has spoken very highly of you. So
It's been a wild ride, so maybe you told a little bit about it.
Okay. So just starting right off the bat, your background. You, like you said earlier, you grew up in the Mount Carmel area,
Right.
working for your father at his store, Aubrey. It was Aubrey and Sons, correct?
Aubrey and Sons, yeah, it was a little used car
Or
dealership.
Alexander and Sons.
Yeah, in Mount Carmel, down the coal region. So that got my start. Mount Carmel High School, football, wrestling, track, did all that stuff. Moved on to college, Fort Wayne, Indiana. And you want to hear the whole story about the Fort Wayne, Indiana?
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's hear it.
With a semester to go, I walked. I said I didn't want to be an engineer. I saw engineers were what they were making, and I thought I can make that in the car business in the summer. So my mom and dad weren't very happy when I came home. I was in my senior year with a semester to go. But, hey, I had a plan. I wanted to be a Chevrolet dealer. I watched all my buddies in high school, and they were driving new Chevy Super Sport convertibles. Their dad was a dealer, and I thought, if they can do that, I can sure do it. So that was my motivation right there.
So originally you went to school for mechanical engineering.
Right.
What were you hoping to pursue a career in at the time when you were?
I wasn't really sure. I knew I wanted a college education, and my brother was a senior when I was a freshman. He recruited me. He wanted me to go out there because he told my dad we could commute back and forth together. We could do all this good stuff, and that was the right thing to do at the time. I wasn't crazy about engineering, but I wanted to go to college. So, and I liked the idea of the math. That worked out pretty good.
I like math too.
Yeah, I like math.
It's a good thing now since you deal with a lot of numbers.
It's all numbers.
Yeah,
numbers and people. That's what it's about. That's what the car business is, really. Yeah. I don't know cars. I don't.
Do you ever think, looking back at it, that maybe like what your life is now compared to like if you were to continue your degree and?
Oh my, yeah, I thought about it. The funny thing is, I belong to a fraternity, and with the exception of one guy that I know, and I know there are probably still 30 of us that get together every 5 or 6 years. I only know one guy that wasn't real successful. Our guys were pretty cool. They really went on and did some great things. Owned some businesses, ran some big power plants and stuff. So, but it wouldn't have been like this. This is crazy, helicopters and airplanes and lake houses.
It's a blessing.
That's awesome.
It's a good life. It takes a lot of work. I will tell you, I've worked bell to bell. It was a long haul, but it's been a good one.
So once you then got into back into the automotive industry, we'll say, you became a used car manager at Stalker Chevy in State College.
Yeah. What happened? I was at a car auction, and anyway, I got the word that Stalker was looking for a new used car manager. His guy was leaving, going to get a dealership in Lewistown, Pennsylvania. So I called Mr. Stalker, and I cold call. I said, "Hey, I'm interested in that job. I hear you're looking for a used car manager." He says, "Yeah, what's your experience?" I told him all the stuff. I've been to every car auction on the East Coast. Stretched that a little bit. Told him I could appraise, I could troubleshoot, I could sell, I could do everything he wanted. He loved it. He said, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 22. He said, "Well, I don't know." He started backing off. Well, I said, "At least how about an interview?" He said, "Okay." He said, "But I'm going away next week, and I'll be away for a couple weeks." I said, "Well, what are you doing Sunday?" I said, "Well," he said, I said, "Well, how about if I just come up?" He said, "You don't know where I live." I said, "Well, I'll find you." I said, "You're a big guy."
Yeah.
And he was stuttering. He said, "Well, I said, "Okay, I'll be up. Don't worry. I won't inconvenience you. I'll wait till after church." And it kind of hung up on him. But not really, but I made a real quick ending. And I drove up on a Sunday morning, and the cool part about this, I took my girlfriend with me. What a mistake. She was really, really good to look at. And so he's talking to me, and he's looking at her the whole time and never looked at me once. So that interview didn't go very well. So, he thanked me for coming up. I thanked him for his time. And I went home. And about 4 or 5 days later, he called me, and he said, I want to offer you a job. It's not going to be used car manager, it'll be wholesale manager. I said, no. I said, Mr. Stalker, I appreciate all that, but no, I want the used car manager. I want this type of job. So another 3, 4 days went by, and he called me back, and he offered me a job on a Friday afternoon. He said, how soon can you be here? I said, tomorrow morning. That was it. And my mom gave me a ride up. I had a sister living there. Her husband was a senior at Penn State. I had 2 $10 bills in my pocket. I called her, can I live on your couch until I can get a place to live? Yep. She had 2 screaming babies and a pain-in-the-ass husband. But, you know, it's all I had. So that's what I did. I didn't even have a pay plan. I had no idea what I was going to make. So anyway, I go to work Saturday morning. He comes in. He starts telling me what I got to do and how it's going to work and all this stuff. And Thursday came, and he says, Blaise, come on in the office. I said, what's up? He said, well, pay. He said, we're paying tomorrow. He said, we got to figure out what you're going to make. So, okay. So I thought, okay, we go in the office. And like a dummy, he asked me what I thought I should make, and I tell him instead of looking what the offer was, because I blurted out what engineers were making at the time, 1971. I said, I have to make $10,000 a year. He said, yeah, okay. Said, well, we can do that. I thought, oh, boy, what did I leave on the table?
Sure.
So, and I looked out in the showroom, and there was a yellow Corvette, brand new, 71 or 72. I can't remember what year that one was. It came out early. But anyway, I said, and I'd like to drive a Corvette. I said, I've never had one, a new one. I said, I've driven used ones. I said, can you make that my company car? He said, yeah. He said, I can make that happen. And now I'm thinking I'm doing pretty good. And I started to open my mouth and asked for a little bit more. He said, that's it. Stop. But I got the Corvette, and I got the 10 grand. So I'm getting up. This is a real cool part. I'm walking out the door. I'm feeling pretty good about things. And he said, wait a second. He said, well, what is your goal? What do you want to do? I said, well, I want to be a Chevrolet dealer. This is my goal. That's what I'm here for. He said, you give me 10 good years. He said, and I'll help you become a Chevrolet dealer. And I thought, wow. So I had this little saying I used to say, every day, every time, without fail, no exceptions. And I thought about that goal. For 10 years of my life, he's going to help me become a Chevrolet dealer. Now, this guy's successful. I thought, what the heck? Every day, every time, without fail, no exception. I'd say, this would be my goal. You're going to be a Chevrolet dealer. So finally, 9.5 years go by, and I'm getting my Chevrolet deal. And I knock on his door, and I said, Mr. Stalker. Yes, Blake, come on in. We were really good friends, a really great guy to work for. I said, you told me that if I gave you 10 good years, you'd help me become a Chevrolet dealer. I said, you remember? He said, yeah. He said, I remember that. I said, well, he said, what are you looking for? I said, well, I'm $50,000 short of what I need to put this deal together. He said, I'm not going to do that. I said, but you told me you'd help me if I stayed with you 10 years. He said, I did help you. He said, I taught you the business. He gave me a pat in the back and out the door. That was that. But I found the money another way. And so within a month, I was a Chevrolet dealer in Montoursville here.
That's cool.
Yeah. And we remained friends. Gene Sr. and I and Junior remained friends until the day he passed, and his son, I'm still friends with his son. Yeah. So, yeah. So that was my start.
So looking back at that time of your life, is there anything now that you would suggest to yourself at that point in time? Like any suggestions that maybe something you would have done differently?
For that part of my life, no. And I'll tell you why. Because number one, I did learn the business. He taught me. Yeah. He quizzed me, and I had to know. That's a stack of financial statements over there, and you got to know every department and every line on a statement. You got to know where all that money's coming and going. So he did help me a lot, and I did it primarily without other people's money, because a lot of young entrepreneurs want to borrow all the money. They don't want to mortgage their house, or give up their savings or sell their cars, and I did all that. Yeah, I did it all. I sold my home.
That's a great point. I mean, I work with a lot of startup companies for my software business, and the biggest question we always get is, "Hey, we have this idea," and I'm like, "Okay, well, how are you going to fund it? How are you going to pay me? How are you going to pay for this idea, this product?" And most people don't know, and they think like, "Oh, I'll go get a bank loan." The bank is not going to give you money. You have no product, you have no revenue, right? You haven't been in business even a year yet. No one's going to give you money. And
they want OPM, other people's money.
Yep.
that's the big deal, you know. It doesn't work.
Yeah, you have to have some skin in the game, you know.
I get
started.
People that come through the door every day like that, you know, and everybody has a great idea. Everybody's, you know, got a new widget, but you got to have the risk. You got to have some skin in the game, like you said, or it won't work.
So, fast forwarding, August, I have August of 1980 is when you opened up your Chevy store.
Right, August 1st.
Do you recall how many cars you sold that first month?
You could count them on one hand. It was scary. Yeah, it was really scary. I mean, I had no money. My wife was a nurse, registered nurse. She's making $400 a week at the time. I gave her a Chevette to drive, and I was driving Impala without power windows. Those were our two cars. And I had I think I had about 6 new cars on the lot, maybe 3 or 4 used. That was it. It was really scary. It was really something, but you just kept grinding, you know, just keep grinding a little bit at a time. Excuse me. It kept getting better and better and better. Yeah. And then the opportunity came. And the opportunity was when another car dealership came up for sale. This other car dealership was coming up for sale, and we kind of knew it. And we knew there'd be a lot of people after it. And that was about 1985. And it was Ford and Spangler in Lock Haven. And Mrs. Spangler called me. She said, Blaise, can you be here at 11 o'clock? I said, yeah. I said, what's up? She said, well, I'm finally going to sell the business. I said, oh, okay. So I showered, shaved, I'm getting ready. I called my little brother, Tom. I said, Tom, Mrs. Spangler called me. She's going to sell the business on 11 o'clock. And he said, okay, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to mosey up there and, you know, interview and stuff. He said, no, you're going right now. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, do you think you're going to be the only one there? Yeah. He's going to have a little bidding war. I said, well, you're so smart. Jumped in the car. My wife had at the time, now she's got a V6 Cavalier SS, a rocket ship, a little black convertible. Honey, I'm borrowing a car. I fly up to Lock Haven. I'm there before, I think it was like 9 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't go to the front door because I knew the building, and I knew they would tell me I couldn't see her. So I went around the side of the building. She had a sliding glass door. She looks up. She's, what's up? I told you 11. I said, hey, you know, like I got a dentist appointment. I got to be here now. So she said, come on in. We sat down, her son-in-law, and Mrs. Spangler, and we knocked out a deal. And at 11 o'clock, guess what? Here they come, the other buyers.
There you go.
And she apologized to him. She said, oh, I'm sorry for making you come all the way up here from Harrisburg, but I sold it to Blaise.
That's awesome.
And I knew the guy.
Did you really? Glenn
Martin, a really good friend of mine.
Was he upset?
Ooh. Yeah, him and his boss. He was coming with the money. Dang. They were coming with the guns. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, though.
That was my second deal. So
it seems like, you know, kind of the idea I've been hearing throughout your kind of story here is you've been very persistent. And I had someone tell me one time that, you know, they believe that the key to their success was their persistency, you know, and just asking, because you never know. Like, you can be told no, but someone might just say yes. Yeah. You know, a lot of people are afraid to ask. Do you find that to be true? Do you find that your persistency has been helpful?
You know, you got to be sincere, though, with this stuff, because I got a lot of calls. After I bought that second deal, I got another call within 6 months on another deal, which I bought because they were reasonably priced. But then I got a reputation. So the reputation was out there that if they were selling a dealership or whatever, family situation, financial, whatever it was, I typically got first call. And I'd go interview, and I could tell you I'd bought just about all of them because they were reasonable people. They weren't, you know, the prices today are crazy, what you're getting for dealerships. It's nuts. But back then it was, you know, so much for the real estate, so much for the business, et cetera. And they wanted to sell. So I ended up buying quite a few. And that was in the early 90s, throughout the 90s, even in the 2000s, yeah.
So that kind of works us into our next segment. By the beginning of 2000, how many locations did you roughly have?
I'm going to guess probably 8, something like that. I think about 8. I don't remember, 8 or 9. Yeah.
And then we go into 2001. You started AutoTrack.
Yeah, I started AutoTrack. I forgot about that. That was a hot deal. That was a leasing company, kind of like a buy here, pay here, but it was a lease here, pay here for credit challenged people. you know, to get a little sideways in their credit, and I would fix them up with a decent car, try and repair their credit, and they pay weekly. And we put a little gadget on the car, a little reminder. Bells would go off like bells and whistles, and a little siren. It wasn't quite that bad, but it had red lights and it had a dinger type thing, and it worked, man. That was a great business.
Do you recall like where that idea came from, or?
You know, I don't exactly remember, but I met a guy on an airplane, and he was selling the gadgets. He was selling the buy here, pay here, but they used on buy here, pay here, not lease here, pay here. Well, I was always a leasing guy. I loved leasing. It was a different situation. Payments were about 2/3 of a buy. You don't keep the car at the end, you give the car back. You know all that in a lease. So I thought about why not a lease, lower the payment instead of a buy payment for these credit challenged people, and make it a little easier for them. And it worked. I mean, it worked. It took off like crazy, and it grew. It really, really grew. It was. It's ironic because now that business is not viable anymore. It just, the government gave out a lot of money here the last couple of years. I'm sure you're aware of, and some of these credit challenged people got a little. I would just say they got a little unhinged with their buying, but it's turned again now. Now the bad credit business is really bad. It's a really hard gig. So I kind of stood clear of that once I got big in the car dealerships. But the auto track was very good, really successful.
We were just, when we were, doing our research, looking at the timing of it all, it's like there obviously must have been challenges, with the family situation, and then 9/11 right before you started this new business venture.
Well, I found a good partner. I found a really good partner who he had started several businesses. He was a financial genius. I called him a serial entrepreneur.
Can we name drop him?
Oh, Bob Malcolm.
Yep.
Yeah, Bob Malcolm. And he was a brilliant guy. And I showed it to him. He said, Blaise is wonderful. He said, but we're going to need money because all these cars on the street. So I was pretty good with the banks. And I said, I'll take care of that part. And I wheeled around the banks. And at that time I was getting, it sounds like a lot, but I was getting like $2 million and $3 million and $2 million and $5 million. Mm-hmm. Eventually we took that thing to, it was close to $200 million on the street at one time. So that was a pretty big gig. That was 3 banks cooperated in that deal. So now we're back down to about $50 million, and truthfully, right now we're kind of doing a wind down on the deal. Okay. So
is he looking to sell off, you think? What's the kind of end goal?
A little bit of a, we'll try and sell it. We could sell the whole package, and there are guys out there buying those packages, and they run it off. But you'll lose probably 25% of the deal. That's what they'll want for their profit. So we have the people in place, and they're still working. They know what's going on. So it might take 3 years max to run that off. Yeah.
Well, do you have a patent on the technology?
We do. It's amazing that I got a patent on that. It was a patent on the process.
Okay.
And I mean, it held up for quite a while. It worked for quite a while, but eventually some other guys took it, and you don't want to go to court and get in all those fights and battles and do all that. So, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, we had the patent, and it worked. It was cool.
That is cool.
Just one of those deals,
It's like even you kind of mentioned like the hardships around that time, but to start a business at that point, and because we both know starting a business is not easy.
Yeah.
Did you find it to be more challenging around that time, or?
I didn't, and the reason was it started like this. I had an office like this, and there was a. In fact, here's the culprit. Had a glass top on it. Okay. And I was giving a meeting one day, and I got pissed. So I broke the glass. It shattered. So I called up to Williamsburg Mirror and Glass. After the meeting, I said, hey, guys, come on down here and measure my table. I need a new glass. And so they send this kid down, and he does a terrific job. Beveled the edges, does everything. And I started talking to him, and he needs to buy a car. He said, but my credit's really bad. I said, well, this is how it started. This was the first customer. I said, well, come on downstairs here. We're going to see if I can fix you up. So I had this car, we'll call it maybe cosmetically challenged. I set him up with a payment on a lease, on a 2-year lease, on a payment. He had a minimal amount down. Shook his hand. I mean, it took a day to get it done. Shook his hand, and the kid paid forever. I mean, he just kept paying. And I said to my secretary, you have that on a computer? She says, yeah, I'm doing it manually on a computer, keeping track of the payments. I said, how many can you keep track of on that thing? She said, I can do a couple hundred. That was it. And we started it, her and I.
Wow.
Haven't seen her for a long time. A little bit dry in here, isn't it?
No, that's a super interesting story. So I guess I'm a software guy.
Okay.
So, like my background software, I love technology, I love software. So this whole thing is super interesting to me. I was approached 3 years ago from about a startup company where they wanted to install these like plug-in gadgets into a car that would basically be linked with a mobile app that would tell you diagnostics on the car.
Yeah.
We ended up not working with that contract. We never got that contract, but I always thought that was an interesting idea because I'm not a car guy. I always joke and say when I go to the dealer, they could tell me that my left wheel is completely broken, needs repair. I'd be like, do it, go ahead.
You're the guy dealerships love.
Yeah, exactly. But I was like,
So it was a plug-in?
Yes. I don't know if it's on the stores yet. We didn't get that contract, so I don't know if they're live or not. But I thought the idea is
They're alive.
Are they alive?
Yeah. It's good.
Is it good?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean that you can take a car, like you bring your car in here. And this is kind of tricky. This is how tough this business got, but you get some lights on the dash. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to trade the car. You don't want to bring it with the lights on the dash. Geez, I shouldn't be telling these people all this, but the people will sometimes take it to a garage and they'll get them to turn the lights out. They can trick the system. Mm-hmm. And it'll last 4 or 5 days. But they have these plugins now, the one that you were talking about, and you plug it in and you see that they erase the code. But the code is still live in the car. So there's no way to cheat it, but that was a really good tool. Wow. You should have bought into that deal.
So you're saying I left a lot of money on the table.
Well, I'm telling you what, it's big.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's wild. Do you have any interest
But you never know.
in kind of spinning off your software kind of side of things into something like that, or?
No. That credit challenge business that's just a tough avenue right now.
Right.
Really tough. I mean, it's just so tough because the consumer, even though he's not paying and he's wrong, he's still got all the protection in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even call him 3 times in a row or you're harassing them. So it's just better. It was a good company at the time. It served its purpose. I ran with it. But this is what it's about, these car dealerships. Yeah. And the big boys are buying them. They're buying these big dealerships.
Everyone needs a car,
And you know what? How do they say it? The destruction, or how do they call it? Built-in, when it's going to go away, the car's going to frames rust. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, these trucks they're building right now, in 15 years, they're all rusty frames.
Yeah.
I can't think of the term I want to say, but
that's an interesting point, though, too. So you've been in the car industry for a long time.
All my life.
And I don't know much about the car industry. And I was, actually asking him, how does one, where I'm from, the dealerships that are around me, I have been around me since I was a little kid, and I've never seen a new one kind of spurt up. Is it hard to get into this industry? It's
impossible.
Really?
At this level, it's impossible. It takes so much money. Either you'd have to have a really rich daddy, or you just couldn't do it. So,
why is it like that? I mean, right now, if you grow, it's all acquisitions.
Yeah. Well, to take a deal like this, that Subaru deal up on the hill.
Yeah.
That property alone is $100,000 an acre. So that's sitting on 19 acres. And the building is probably, I think the cut and fill, the parking lot, the lights, you're talking another $3-4 million. And then you got the building. The building's $10-12 million bucks. Sure. I mean, look what you're coming with there. Now you can go out and buy some small stores. There's some small stuff around, but still, you need to operate a business, a small one. You need probably $500,000 in cash in the bank. You got to mortgage the building, so you need 20% of that, and you got to buy the business from somebody. So you're probably walking in with you need $1.5 million, $2 million bucks for a small deal to get it going.
So it's not so much easy. like a franchise. When like if you're a Ford dealer or a Toyota dealer, it's not like you're buying a franchise. Like if you were buying a McDonald's or something like that.
Oh yes, you are.
So so it is.
Oh, positively.
Is that same? Okay.
Yeah, you can't drive up here and put another Nissan dealership. Right. I've got this territory, or a Ford dealership, or Chevy. You've got a protected area from the manufacturer. Gotcha. And that banner is worth a lot of money. A lot of money, especially. This is not a big area. Very, very rural. You guys are from Pittsburgh. I'll tell you some things that people don't know. Lycoming County is the largest county in Pennsylvania. Okay. Larger than the state of Rhode Island. And there's only 130,000 people here. So, I mean, you think about that. That's nobody. So you got to be really good to everyone. And I mean, we're selling out here in the country and out in these rural areas. Now, when you go to Pittsburgh, you got all those people to pick on. It's a little different story. Those dealerships are bigger and they're more valuable. There's no doubt about it. Those city dealerships.
Well, you said with the smaller crowd. So what's been your key to success with retaining customers? And
one of the keys, there have been a couple, but one of them, a really good one, was Penn State had that scandal with the Sandusky scandal. Well, all the major advertisers pulled out. I mean, Pepsi-Cola and all them guys, they ran, which I didn't blame them. It was a terrible thing. Well, I think it was the second year, and they were up there. Penn State had hardly anybody in the backyard. But we approached them through one of our guys, and we negotiated a deal that we still have, where we were behind the coach. We had
still see
the
it today, yep.
And we still have it. And we're on the wrestling mats, we're on the podium. We're at the scoreboard at the top. We're on the basketball floor if you watch a basketball game. That made us pretty regional. That really helped. And the other thing that was going along the whole time was buying these dealerships in different towns. So when you're advertising on TV, I'm on Wilkes-Barre Scranton station. I'm hitting my Sunbury, my Bloomsburg, I'm hitting naturally Williamsport. So I'm getting all these dealerships in one ad. That really helped.
So you do feel like, your kind of marketing campaigns have been the key to your success?
Yeah. Yeah, that dog I carry around, Lyle. You know about him?
I don't know about it. No, that's interesting.
Oh, I got this little black and white dog. A friend of mine owns it. He actually works with me. And Lyle he's been a benchmark. What do you call him? He's like our guy.
Mascot.
A mascot. I walked in an airport one time with Lyle. And the guy's like, "Oh, you Blaise Alexander?" I said, "Yeah." I had Lyle with me. He said, "Can I get a picture?" I said, "Sure." Yeah, I pump up real nice. He says, "No, you're going to hold the camera." I want the dog. True story.
That's awesome.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, well, Lyle's famous. He is a good dog. So anything. It was a good advertising campaign. And you know what? When you have family businesses, as you know, I don't take advantage of it, I guess, but I kept my name on that, Blaise Alexander Family Dealerships. So, my sons are in the business with me, and my daughter was for a while. So, yeah, you use all that stuff.
Just
People
great.
like it.
How are Adam and Aubrey playing a big part these days?
Huge. Aubrey is he's a construction guy. He builds all these buildings for me. He takes care of all the maintenance, all the new buildings. He has an architectural engineer, a commercial architect, a project engineer, and himself. We're remodeling the Kia building in Montoursville. We're building a new Hyundai in State College, and we just built that Subaru. He did that in 13 months. We did the Chevy. He's doing all that. That's Aubrey's on the maintenance side of it. And Adam is particularly into the advertising. He does a lot of advertising for me, radio and TV. And he's what I call like a COO. He knows used cars really well. So he's out there at the dealerships visiting and helping with the people. People are the biggest issue right now. That's number one.
To be a common thread.
Oh,
I
tough.
struggle with that in my business as well. Hiring people and good people that want to stay.
You know what? And you guys are not typical. I'll say it that way. You're not Gen Z, are you?
I don't know. I'm 26. I don't know what generation that is. That Gen Z?
I have no idea.
I think it is Z.
Gen Z.
So anyway, the Z is a lot different than guys like me, and I'm a baby boomer. And then you got the next one coming up. What's the next one after Z? I can't even think what it is. But we were talking about this the other day. These guys next after you guys, I think you're in the one I'm talking about, the up to 28 years old. Mm-hmm. Up to 28. They're way more aggressive than the ones from 28 to 42. Those that we find that group wants security.
Yeah.
Salary, security, time off, vacations.
Yep.
How about it?
And I find too, like at least from my experience in my business, I don't know if it's like a society thing, but the younger kids, they want paid more, and they like have this expectation almost that for example, I was looking to hire like a person in my office for like invoicing, billing. It could have been like a high school kid could have done it, and I offer like $15 an hour, and it's like they want more than that. And it's like, but the thing is, that's crazy. They say to me like, "Oh, well, McDonald's is hiring for like 21 an hour." I'm like, that's in like, I was like, how does a small business like compete?
Well, salary is the way to do it. And what I found out, we were hiring at Auto Track, or I'm sorry, the BDC. It was like a lot of phone work. And we were paying like $15.50. This is 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And we found we had a bump to 18. A better part of the story is the salespeople down here. They would come in here and work for a small salary and commission. They didn't like that. So we put them on a solid salary to start. That we figured about what they might sell, and if they're reasonably successful, and gave them that salary. And that salary they looked at like, wow, I'll take that job. Once they found out what the commission structure was and how they could sell and really make some money, they switched right over to commission. Yeah. But they wanted that salary. They wanted that security. So, but that hourly person, you're right. I mean, you're going nowhere with $15 anymore.
No, which is crazy because like I remember like, I think the first like job that I got when I was younger, I think I made like $12.50.
That's
and
pretty good.
I was like, yeah, I'm like, this is fantastic, and it's, I don't know, different minds. I get there's inflation now, and cost of living has gone up. But
well, when I look at my wife was making $400 a week, a 4-year registered nurse, that person today is making probably 80 grand a year.
Yeah, my wife is, so yeah.
Is that
80, 90, yeah.
80, 90 a year. She's making 20 grand a year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sad. But anyway, it's times have changed. And these kids, a good point too. We were up at the Chevy store the other day, and we were having this meeting, and one of my guys brought up the fact that our sales crew, 66% of the salesmen that I have on the floors at all my dealerships right now had never sold a car before the pandemic started. We hired all these people primarily after the pandemic. 66% of those people never sold a car before. They're all like 21, 22, 23, 24. And it used to be the old dog salesman, remember the old guy out back smoking? And these guys they're rock stars. What? They're good at people. They're really good at people. And that's a change. That's different. Our system's a little different too, though. We have an entry level and then this level and team leaders, and so they get a lot of shadowing, young guys.
It's also interesting too, like some of the research I've done, there's many people that have been employed at one of your dealerships that now have successful businesses in the area. They went on to start their own business and got a great education.
Yeah, I must be paying too much. I got the down payment money. No, I guess they do well. I mean, that's one thing. If you got a good person, I always said you could teach a monkey to open a door and feature benefits and things like that. But you got to have a personality to sell cars. That's what it takes. People like people. You get a nice guy, he's smooth, he's nice, like you're good-looking guys, you're young, That's what works.
Yeah, it's my uncle, who's a business partner of mine. He always says, he's like, it is always about who you know, like, and trust. He goes, there's competitors out there. There's people who do the same thing as you. It's like you got to get the other person trying to buy from you to like you. That's it. Yeah,
that's true. It's the whole part about listening, too. You get a guy talking or a gal, you get people talking, a husband and wife, you just be quiet. Let them roll. Really, because they're telling you their life story, and that's people want to tell you things. They want to tell you where they live and what they do, about their kids, and then it gets to the car. These kids are good. I got to give these kids. This is an older crew here because we've been here. We've been here 15 years. Okay, but Chevy's only been here about 5.
This is your flagship store down here.
Yeah, it really is. Well, this is really.
Yeah,
really. When you think about it, it's a good store. This has been a great store. So anyway.
Just like with right now, I would say we're kind of in an economic slowdown. Would you agree a little bit?
The interest rates are hurting.
Yeah, because of interest rates.
No doubt about it.
How does that change anything, like as far as how you run the business, or?
You gotta get used to selling maybe 80% of what you were selling before, and still maintain a profit. Try and be reasonable with it. But I mean, what else can you do? You watch your expenses as close as you can. You always do, but it's definitely slower. When you're selling a car now, and its average rate is 8% for good credit, good customer, 7, 6.5, compared to 3. I mean that's a lot of difference.
And the price of vehicles just keeps getting higher and higher.
Crazy.
Yeah,
it is crazy what they've done with the prices. And there's no rebates right now because there was no manufacturing. They couldn't get the chips. There weren't a lot of cars. Right. So everybody's charging full window sticker. Manufacturers not giving up rebates. A lot of those people it's sad to say, are in those cars a little bit heavier right now.
Yeah.
That's sad because they're trying to trade them out now 2 years later, a little bit upside down. We're our own detriment. We're our own car dealers. We're our own worst enemy. But we have to go with the times. We have to do what's working. So,
well, just with the current state right now, like, what do you see for the future of the automotive industry?
well, I'll tell you what I don't see. I'll tell you what I don't see in the near term is electric. It's
Well, that's my next question, so we can kill two birds with one
well,
stone.
they're way out over their skis. They
Yeah.
are way out, and they just look. You can how do you say you can't push a rope. When they went from horse and buggy to gas cars, it took like 25 years. They're trying to do this in 3 years or 4 years.
Yep.
And the infrastructure and the mining of the minerals and the kids in the mines. It's just a hard deal right now. Is it going to come? It probably will. I would say, give it 15 years, 20 years. The hybrid car right now, that's a good way to go. I mean, it's a gas. Certainly gives you the mileage you want. You're probably getting on a mid-size SUV again 40 or 45 mile, 50 mile a gallon. I mean, what more do you want?
Yeah.
If you want to go that route. Now, I mean, tell you what, we're out here in the country, okay? We got a pickup truck as the first vehicle in the lot or in the driveway. If the wife's good, if things are working, she gets a car next.
Yeah.
But the family vehicle is a pickup truck, and there's no doubt about it. That's partly too why we became successful here. We were really heavy in the inventory. I'll tell you a quick story. When the Great Depression came, they called it the Great Depression in 09, 08, 09. We were looking. I went to visit a friend of mine, and he said, "I'm not ordering any cars because it looks like General Motors is going to go bankrupt, and Ford is going to go bankrupt, and Chrysler is going to go bankrupt." And I listened to him telling me this at lunch, and I went home, and my wheels are turning. I sat down with my sons and a couple of our managers, and I said, "Guys, some of these guys are not going to order cars, and General Motors could go bankrupt, and we could get stuck with all this inventory." But then, like being optimists that we are, we said, why don't we go the other route? Why don't we order everything we can get? Now, think about how dangerous that was. Yeah. So this Chevrolet lot, at the time, I think we were carrying $7-8 million, and the floor plans with the bank on new cars. So I think we got up to around $12 or $13 million, which was way past our credit limit line. And finally, the banker called me and said, "Blaise, we're cutting you off." And I was waiting for the call. I said, "I'm not surprised. I would cut me off too." Because what are you going to do with all these cars? It was crazy. They were everywhere. And primarily in the Chevrolet stores where we did it. And what happens? They go bankrupt. I would say it was March. It lasted maybe 90 days, that bankruptcy. And in that bankruptcy, we didn't stop selling. Everything was good. But when we came out of it, it was gangbusters because we had the cars. Mm-hmm. We had the vehicles. There were only 1 or 2 or 3 dealers in the whole state with Chevrolets, and I had them. Wow. And then there's a thing called turn and earn. And we were selling them, so we were earning them. And turn and earn, turn and earn. And we went from here to here to here. That was a big bolt. That was big.
Wow. Would you say that was one of the pivotal moments for the business?
I absolutely would say that. I really would. That was big because people were coming from Du Bois and Harrisburg, and, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. I mean, that's pretty far to go for a car.
Yeah.
Were there calculated risks in making that decision?
Was there ever? Yeah. I mean, if General Motors goes bankrupt and doesn't come back out of it, I mean, you have no warranty, and you don't have a finance system probably. I mean, it was really a risk. That was a big one.
I mean, would that have kind of crushed you, kind of ruined the business?
Probably would have figured out another way to do it. So yeah, probably it was a potential crush, but we would have figured something out. Luckily, we didn't have to cross that bridge. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. But that was big. That was really big. And we did that in all our General Motors stores. It wasn't big for me with Ford because I'm not really a big Ford guy. I mean, I have Ford dealerships, and I have Chrysler dealerships and Toyota. But no matter, it was primarily Chevy.
Yeah,
that put us on the map.
So I mean, obviously that's a huge risk, and I think that I like to highlight for our listeners that a lot of times people don't realize the risk that is involved in business or being an entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it. We've heard a lot about a lot of the success that you've had. Mm-hmm. But was there ever a time where you were starting your business and you were like, "Oh man,
one time? I tell you what. Well, the funny thing is about this business, it's all risk, every bit of it. I mean, you order 5 of the wrong cars out there, and they sit there for a year. It's crazy, or you trade the wrong car. You trade a car with a bad motor, you know, you're $7,000 upside down before you get the deal done. But no, the cool part about this was back when I started, you were judged by the bank more by who you were. You know, it wasn't just about, you know, let me see, you know, they didn't stick by the numbers, 20% down and all that. It was more, you knew the banker, he got to know you, you know, you took a risk, you won, you risked again, you won. Pretty soon, well, I'll give you an example. I bought this one dealership one time, and I called my friend. His name was Bob Kurtig. I said, hey, Bob, I bought that dealership we were talking about. He said, oh. I said, I'm going to need some money. He said, well, what do you need? I said, well, I need $400,000 for the building. He said, okay. I said, I need $400,000 for the business. He said, okay. And I said, I need $400,000 working capital. He said, okay. He said, how much do you have? I said, $30,000. He said, come on down the bank. And I went down, and we were, you know, that's how it was, though. And you can't do that today. It's impossible. Especially but anyway, that risk. I mean, every time you bought a dealership, it was another big risk. Remortgaged a home. I did it. So I remortgaged my house many times. And I remortgaged the business that I owned, the successful one. So it was a lot. There's a lot to it. So.
Yeah, a lot of risk. People don't realize that.
No, they don't. And the other part is they don't, sometimes dealers get overlooked, but I know your dad understands this. We're the first ones they come to in the town when they need something. I mean, they're the first ones. They come to a dealership for everything. It doesn't matter what they're doing, what kind of charity it is, whether it's high school football teams, Little League. It doesn't matter what it is. We're the first ones they come to, and we respond. I'm saying we do pretty good with that, but you know, that's we're big players is what I'm saying. We're big in the communities. You have to be, or you're not going to be here.
But with that too, I mean, that was one of my next topics. I mean, you do your part in giving back to the community.
I try, sometimes to a fault, I think, but I get rewarded.
Yeah,
I've done pretty well. So.
Always come back to you.
Yeah, it's been a really good run. And, I mean, how can you turn down some of these situations? I mean, I got to a point where, like the School of Hope here in town, and Martha Lloyd up in Troy is another school like that, and St. Joe's in Pottsville. That's where a lot of my charity money goes, just places like that. These are developmentally challenged children and adults. So that's a huge load. I can never work in these places. I go to them, but, man, these people that work in those places, they're terrific people. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. And they love it. They're always smiling and laughing. Thinking, geez, I couldn't do that for
it's amazing.
For love or money, I couldn't do it. But,
so
anyway.
Somewhat recently, you did the commencement speech back at your old college, correct?
I did. I'm a doctor. I got an honorary doctorate.
Oh.
Yeah, and I learned that, you know, I just learned this. And I maybe I took it too lightly, but I'll tell you about the speech in a minute. But to get that honorary doctorate, the president of the college, of the university, he had to go back and investigate me and look at everything I've done, and he had to sell that to his board to get that doctorate. It's kind of, I got this speech from a gal, and she was Blaise. She said, don't take it lightly, what you got. You got an honorary doctorate. That's a pretty big deal. So anyway, I'll tell you quickly about the speech because it's in Fort Wayne, Indiana Institute of Technology. It's an engineering school, 4-year school. We used to compare ourselves, IIT, we used to compare ourselves to RIT because they had a really good reputation. Anyway, it was supposed to be outdoors. It was indoors at the Coliseum. I'm featuring about maybe 3,000, 4,000. I don't even know. It was big and a lot of people. And it's a very mixed community. You know, there's a lot of different Asian, blacks, everybody. I mean, it was a good group. The college is really mixed. So anyway, it was just a good crowd. I really liked them. They were active. If you ever been to a graduation, it's just a lot of fun, you know. So anyway, I started out and I said, tell you about myself. I'm Blaise Alexander. I have 21 car dealerships, 2 car auctions, 7 body shops. So I said, that's pretty big stuff. I said, with all that, though, I said, the most often asked question I get is, wow, how many people work for you? To which I responded, about half of them. Which I got a pretty good I got them warmed up with that one.
A good icebreaker.
It was a good icebreaker. And then it went on, and I said, I want to tell you, too, I come from a family of a good mom and dad. I'm sorry, I said 10 children in my family. I said, and they're all from the same mom and dad. And that was another. Whoa, they were screaming. It was really cool. So anyway, I started the speech out kind of like that, and I got a couple of good chuckles. But I rode right into that. Oh, here's the key point I almost forgot. I said to the president, I said, I'm going to get a standing ovation when I'm done. He looked, he said, what, you're crazy. He said, how do you know? You think you're that good? I said, you watch. So I started the speech out, tell them every day, every time, without fail, no exception. You graduates, I told them the story about how I got my job and how I told myself that thing every day, every time, without fail, no exception. I'm going to be a Chevrolet dealer, and here's how I'm going to do it. So I'm using that throughout the speech and different things I'm giving to the graduates. And I said at the end, I said, okay, graduates, so we're done here. Let's all stand up. So they all stood up. I said, now repeat after me. Every day, every day, every time, they're all screaming, without fail, no exceptions, no exception. Thank you. They're all freaking clapping.
There you go.
I walked back to the president, winked. How do you like that?
How much did he owe you?
It was a friendly guy. No, it was something. It was just, it was funny. He couldn't believe it. I said, you won. You did it. Yeah. Anyway, it was a great speech, and it was a great time. I think it was like the biggest thing, the highlight of my senior career, if you'll call it. It was certainly the biggest thing in my life. I mean, the cap and gown, and you get caped and all this. I mean, it was terrific. And then we did a reenactment up at my lake house, and we invited about 75 people from around down here and up there and everything. And I got Senator Yaw, and he wore his gown, and I got this young lady that I'm dating, and she put her gown, and she's got a PhD, and we were all dressed up, and we all gave little speeches, and it was killer.
It's awesome.
That's cool. Yeah.
It was fun. Yeah.
So I gotta ask, because I've been curious. You mentioned twice in this episode about when you first started out, you wanted the job as a used cars manager or salesman?
Used car manager.
Yeah, and you were offered the job as the sales manager, or vice versa, or something like that.
Wholesale.
Wholesale.
So I could handle cars just going to the auction.
Gotcha. So why did you want to be the used car manager? What was so important about the used cars? Did you see like a value in that, or was
it's the second highest position in the dealership.
Okay.
Typically, the general manager is the new car manager, in these smaller dealerships, and then the used car manager second. And I knew I would get in on the decision making and the big part of where I would learn the most. Okay. I couldn't go in there and be a new car manager because I never worked in a new car store, so I really didn't know about new cars. But my dad was a used car dealer.
Gotcha.
I grew up in that business. I'd been to a lot of auctions since I was 7, 8 years old, so I understood used cars.
So it was
I knew I could do it, and I could also learn. I knew it was get my foot in the door.
Gotcha. So it's more about you knew it and you could learn it, and it was more about being able to learn more about the business.
Exactly. I knew I had to be a Chevrolet dealer. I had to learn it. You could have the moniker or whatever, but you have to learn that business just like anything else. You can't just go in there and do it. So that was my easiest way to learn how to do it. And just like flying. You don't just jump in a jet and go.
Do you ever sit up there and fly around a little bit?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Yeah. I owned a jet for a long time, and now I own a helicopter. And this is the best thing I've ever done, especially since there was such a scarcity of vehicles in the last couple of years. I used to have to call ahead and have them move the car so I could land. Now I don't even have to tell them I'm coming because there's no cars on the wall. Just come in and land. Yeah.
Well, as we kind of get toward the end of our time, I'm going to hit you with a couple rapid-fire questions, kind of something new we're starting out here. First one, what is your definition of success?
Success, having a lot of friends and still staying in business. That's success to me. I mean, I can walk in this community. They've asked me to run for school director, mayor, town council, county commissioner, all those, I mean, I could do it if I wanted to. Yeah. Be death in the car business. Anyway, just being a good guy and having a lot of friends and still being in this business to do it.
It's great. When you're not busy, which is probably rare, what is your favorite thing to do? Hobby?
Oh, I do play a lot of golf, but my most favorite thing right now is spending time at Cuca Lake up in New York.
Beautiful place.
And I have the most beautiful house on the lake and a big yard and a lot of bushes, flowers, plants. I mean, I have vegetable gardens and flower gardens and just constant work. I love that. And I work on a farm too. I like that.
I know, I guess it maybe wasn't too long ago. You've been to Europe quite a bit.
Yeah.
In the past couple years.
Yeah.
What, maybe not Europe, but what's your favorite place you've traveled to?
Well, Italy was really great, but I had the opportunity to go to places like Slovakia and Hungary and the countries you don't typically go to a lot. And I learned a lot. I mean, it was really, really down to earth. Excuse me, you go to Italy, you're going to see a lot of touristy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, but going to those
culture
others,
is just so, it's you can't even put it into words. It's just different.
Yeah. Anyway, can I say why I went to Europe?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, part of it's not so good, but, I lost my wife, too. I was telling you earlier, I lost my wife to lung cancer, and neither one of us smoked. I mean, that was a killer, 29 years. Annie was beautiful Irish, gorgeous eyes. You'd swim in her eyes. She was so pretty. And anyway, so I was single I think it was about 8 years. Okay, so think about that. A car dealer with a jet, single. Okay, it was not a bad life, is my point. But anyway, I met this gal in Europe, and we ended up getting married, and I was just too much of a culture change for me. I just couldn't. She couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. So we divorced. Friends too. In fact, the final thing that we were fighting over was the dog. We had a dog, and it was like everything was right down the middle till we got to the dog.
Not the mascot dog. Not
No, not Lyle.
Okay,
no,
Lyle.
that's Joel's dog. We could never give that. That would have ruined it. Anyway, so then, but she was from Europe, and we traveled a lot. I went around Europe, met a lot of people, made a lot of friends. So,
are there any other places in the world that you want to go to see?
This is amazing because people say when I retire I want to travel. I'm the opposite. I love it here. I love this county. I love it. I live in a farm, you know that, and I drive about 5, 6, 7 miles. A lot of good friends back there are farmers, and the lake, and then Florida in the winter, a couple months for some golf. That's it. I'd be glad to just hang around here. I love it. I think it's great. It's a great, great community.
Do you want to ask your final question?
Uh-oh.
So, Blaise.
Ramp up.
Yeah. So the last question we always ask our guests before we kind of wrap up the episode is one that we've been asking a lot, and we've been getting some great advice. And that question is, if you can give one word of advice to a young entrepreneur or someone who wants to start a business, what would that be?
One takeaway. I would stay in the mainstream. Watch a lot of news. Skip around the news channels. Watch it. Study hard what you're doing. Whatever business you're in, don't dance around, jump in and out of different things. If you're going to do that, stay in your field.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be a car dealer, buy 5 car dealerships. You're in software. Expand it, but kind of stay in that. And most of all, I used to say read a book. Read a book. And that's pretty much it. Make sure you take care of your friends.
Cool. Do you have a favorite book?
Oh, I read all the. I can't think the one where you. Good to Great was a really good book.
Okay, yeah.
It's kind of like get the people on the bus, get the wrong ones off, get the right ones on, and decide where the bus is going. But there are a lot of books like that. I just bought 5 books. I can't even tell you what the name of it. I was watching on TV and I was really taken back by this author telling me about the book, and I call Elsie, get me 5 of this. Boom. She orders on Amazon. It comes in. I give it to 2 or 3 people I know.
There you go.
Keep one for myself.
You ever use audiobooks at all?
I don't. I don't.
I started getting into that because when I'm traveling or driving or on a plane or something like that, I listen to the audiobooks, and it's different, but it's kind of the same vibe.
Well, you know what I did for the longest time? I always read like 2 books at a time. And the senator from Texas with the patch on his eye, he was in Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. I was reading his book, and I was reading another guy who happened to be in the service. He's running for senator now. I can't think of his name. Dave McCormick. Okay. He wrote a good book. So I'm reading both of theirs, which are a lot about the war and things like that. And then I was reading a motivational book. I never finished. I don't think I've ever finished the book. I get halfway or 3/4 of the way through. I get the drift, what it's about, what's going on. Put it over here. But I'd say just read a book. Watch the news, though. But don't watch one channel. Boy, these people get led down the wrong road. Watch them all so you can make your mind up. You know what? I kind of believe this one more.
We could talk for hours about that subject.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, and what happens is people getting big. What's going on right now? This country and these colleges. It's a terrible thing. This anti-Semitic stuff. It's crazy. Yeah. You know, but they get in a group and it's like a wad. You know, and they get in this wad, and this person's not that much of a person like that. But the next thing you know, they're part of that group, and it's crazy stuff. There's always something going on in this country. Great thing about this country, we always recover.
Yep.
It always gets fixed. Sometimes it takes longer than usual, but it gets fixed.
Yep. I agree. I will say on that point, on the way up here, I was listening to a podcast, and someone had giving advice about the United States, and they said that one of the things that people overlook is they tend to look at America as we're this bully, and like, you know, we've done some things that are wrong, sure, and I'm saying that we haven't, but if you look at history, we're one of the, you know, only countries in the history of the world, like after World War II, we helped rebuild things that, you know, we were fighting in.
Yeah.
Like, that's unprecedented. No one's ever, you know, done that before. So, like, you know, things get tough, things get wacky, but we always do recover. And we tend to do the right thing.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Benevolent. We're a good country.
Yeah.
I always tease people. I say, you know, as a 4.0 student, I took American history. And they laughed. They said, well, there was only 200 years of it, as opposed to world history. So anyway.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. And I'm always looking at the cup as half full. Yep. I mean, I see this stuff, and I've been in every situation. You know, financially, my family, we've gone through a lot, but it always gets fixed. Mm-hmm. It always does somehow. So if you can fix up this, cut out the bad parts and keep the good, fix this.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. It's been an honor to talk to you and learn a little bit more.
Okay, Dylan, it was a pleasure. I'm honored to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was awesome.
You're welcome. Thank you.